Aphasia virus. Secondary phase modulators. Oh yeah. Lark's true pepper. Flame the dark true salt. Oh yeah. Glass lunch. Judge a bin to let it in. Oh yeah. It's time for the plumes in mass decisions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition, a weekly podcast where we will be going through every single episode of the greatest television show in history, maybe or maybe not, or a really good Star Trek television series. Sorry, Enterprise. Anyways, yeah, the Rules of Acquisition. That's what you're listening to. And with me, as always, is James Nolan.
Hey, guys.
And Hugh Crawford.
Hello.
With every episode, it's getting harder and harder to say this is the best 20th century television show.
Yeah, right. No, well, it's important. Maybe not the best, but
it is important,
was
yes.
Of its time and holds up pretty well as an artifact. And my name is Wade Bowen.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all of us. All right. And this week we're talking about what episode? We're talking about Babel.
Babel.
Yes, we're talking about Babel, which was episode 4 of season 1. It originally aired on January 24th, 1993. And the description goes for this episode: the crew and the civilian population of Deep Space Nine began to speak gibberish when a plague and aphasia virus engineered by the Bajorans as a weapon against the Cardassians accidentally gets released into the station's atmosphere. That's what we're looking at for this week.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's early on and they wanted to establish that they had, what was that original series episode, The Naked Time or whatever, where everybody gets disease and goes crazy?
Yes. That's the one where the famous one where Sulu plays with a sword.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Next Generation version of that is the one where Data fucks Tasha Yar.
Oh, right.
Right. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is a show with obligations. It has to. They're obligated to. They're obligated to do the weird shit happens in space motif of Star Trek.
Right.
Uh-huh. But this time they try to like ham-fisted job of tying it in with the overall arc of this show. Isn't that about right? What do you guys think about that?
Right.
I think you're right.
I think now that Gene Roddenberry's dead, they can do all these homages that they didn't do on Next Generation. Or they did the disease crazy Naked Time episode, but did they have like a mirror universe episode? Spoilers, that happens later in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, they do.
And that's like a callback. They do a Tribbles.
Oh, yeah. Let's not even get into that.
Also, guys, I want to start off on something positive. The next episode is Captain Pursuit, which is a great Deep Space Nine episode.
Okay.
So, let's just hold on until next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically this episode starts and nothing on the station works. Basically, we learn that the station sucks.
Yes.
And being Chief O'Brien sucks because he's the one that's responsible for fixing everything.
Yes.
Apparently single-handedly. He doesn't have a crew. He doesn't have anybody under him.
Well, he does, but they looked like did you see them when they were down in the pits working on something and they looked at like hippies looking at a glow light? They were just like, wow, they were just waving their little glow wands over like a light board,
right.
And they were just distracted. So his crew is essentially Miley Cyrus. He's got to go do these things. So yeah,
he's trying to fix. He's out of his depth a little bit here. He's a man alone.
Yes, he is. He's a man alone.
So is everyone on this station a man alone to themselves?
Everyone except for Dax, who is a woman for the first time in 80 years.
Right. Yeah, we got sex-positive Dax back for an episode.
We did get sex-positive Dax back.
We got her back for like 2 minutes. She actually starts talking about what it's like to be a woman again. And I thought, Dax gets to do something interesting for the first time in a while. And
nope.
Like just about that time, somebody comes down with their jibber jabber disease.
She just got her Adari and pudding, and then
isn't that about right? So So what did you guys think about this episode overall? Anything you want to unpack right away?
I want to unpack the biggest mystery of this whole episode. What the hell did that hippie Klingon have in his ship that was so damn important?
The most boring person on the station, you mean? Hey, I have a boarding shipment.
Yes, he's berating. Yes. What was his deal? What was his... Like, at some point, I thought that would be a plot point because he was so weird and pushy. And he was clearly, like, you know, a hippie Klingon. He was yelling at O'Brien in the teaser. They did it again. In each act, they went back to him.
Right.
And I know at the end he leaves the ship, but at no point there was like, why the hell is this guy acting so irrationally?
Yeah, they didn't explain that at all.
That's just life on the station. People are pains in the ass. He had to be somewhere. He had all his crew stuck in a airlock for days or whatever.
And they just let that guy die. They made like no attempts to save him, did they?
Oh,
no,
they did.
They made no attempt.
They tried, but he turned it. Well, yeah, no. Odo pulls him out when he's the dumbass.
Oh, okay. Did I miss that twice?
Yeah. Like we're trying to release the docking things, but he's got his engine on, so the clamps won't release because he's pulling against them so much.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're like, well, we're just going to blow the clamps up and just blow his ship away from the station so he doesn't take the station out with it.
Yeah, but I didn't say that. Did Odo get him out of the ship before he did that?
Yeah, he passed out, or he succumbed to the smoke inhalation conveniently right outside the loading dock or whatever.
Okay.
Clamps or whatever. And then, so Odo saves him.
Okay, cool.
And the ship blows up.
Yeah, I don't got much to talk about on this episode.
So O'Brien seemed to get the gibberish. He seemed to get on my nerves a little bit. What did Kira do for you this time, James?
Well, on the gibberish, I have a little bit about the writer actually goes into length on something that I saw online about how he wrote it, which is a little bit interesting to me. He just started writing gibberish and he was like, this isn't working. And so then he wrote the whole screenplay with them actually saying...
Because that's a lot of work.
No, he actually went through a lot more work. So he wrote the whole screenplay and wrote all of their lines out as what they thought they were saying.
Yeah.
And then broke that into like the traditional, how it metered.
Oh my God.
And then wrote the nonsense words in the same meter.
Oh, okay.
So it had to be like, the words had to flow under the same sort of structure as the words that whatever meter they would naturally use to say the whatever line, they had to write words that fit that meter.
That makes sense.
It's a pretty interesting way to do it because I guess...
Not as interesting as throwing that paper in the trash and starting a whole new plot for Star Trek when you're writing it.
I bet the actors were very happy to now I can think about my motivation while I act badly.
Yeah, Ira Stephen Beyer, which I believe was the showrunner at this time, it was his story, I think. So I think it was like a pet story. He didn't normally write stories. It was his first writing credit. He doesn't have much afterwards.
Oh, it's one he'd been holding on to when Gene Roddenberry said, no, that's dumb. And then Roddenberry dies and he can finally do the one that he wanted to do on Next Generation.
This is the season where you can still tell that the Next Generation still kept the good ones. They still kept Brian Braga. They still kept the guy who wrote Deep Space Nine. So they've still got the best writers writing their storylines. So yeah, this episode had some flow issues. Kira I guess she was fine.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Kira in this one. So if I really enjoyed her, I scale it back to she was fine for you. Because she actually does something for the first time in like 3 Star Trek series that frustrates me to no end that the other Starfleet officers don't do, which is just transport somebody against their will.
Oh, he just kidnaps a fucker, yeah.
Yeah.
And contaminates him.
Right. No, I thought that was a baller move. I thought that was really cool. It was the most interesting...
It's like, she's not in Starfleet. She can do that kind of shit.
Yeah. By not being in Starfleet, she can operate outside the rules and, really, Starfleet still benefits.
That's true. She's not bound by any of that shit. Yeah, you're right.
Which makes her more interesting than your average first officer in Starfleet.
Yeah, and in fact, they should have crystallized that a little bit in the writing, where he was like, you can't do that. You can't kidnap a big ant. And she's like, I don't have to follow your Starfleet rules,
Right.
And
right. Well, Cisco starts to be like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. And then Odo is like, you better let her.
Or what if Cisco had the idea and he's like, you have to do it because I can't break these rules. I got a pension I got to worry about, but you don't. Another little thing that I thought was fun is that because it was O'Brien who had the aphasia symptom first, there was that one line that he has that they do it where they tease that it's fixing to happen about something about Keiko and Jake. And he says something, and both times I watched it, it didn't level to me because I just assumed he was using some sort of Irish brogue or using some sort of like Cockney slang. And like at some point, I would wanted one of the like they just go, Chief O'Brien, we don't understand you and your Cockney slang. Okay, just talk like a normal person.
Like he had too much synthahol.
Yes, too much synthahol.
Yeah,
that's what I got.
Yeah.
I fell asleep both times I was watching this episode. And I tapped out.
Oh, you ran out of juice?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Well, I had a couple of additional points about this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot.
So I feel like we're supposed to learn something about the Quark and Odo dynamic, but that part seems to really fall flat for me. I don't know what this episode was trying to. I think they were trying to do some character development with Odo and Quark in this episode, but I felt like it really felt flat, and it didn't actually move the ball down the field at all.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Don't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like, oh well, I'm gonna do the Vulcan neck pinch on this guy in the bar.
Yes. And I think we came really close to getting a description of how Dabo is played, and then they pussied out of it right at the end when they're like, I don't have time to learn about Dabo, and I was like,
right.
That's the only interesting thing that would come out of this episode.
Oh yeah. It was like Odo admitting he masturbates or something. Like, I never. He was so meek. I never
learned how to Dabo.
Well, and that's the thing is that's actually one of the things that that's my thing of the week that I would change with this particular script is I don't believe for a minute that Odo, being the great detective that he is, doesn't understand how the gambling works in that establishment.
Yeah, how does he understand the graph?
It's wrong for the character. Because if he doesn't
That's why he feels like he got caught masturbating, because it's something he should know, and it's like embarrassing.
But it's an actual hindrance to him doing a good job at his job. So, like...
Yeah, how is he going to know if people are cheating if he doesn't know the rules?
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, just look up a tutorial on YouTube or something. It's easy.
Go to the Dabo life hack section.
You know there is. If Bajor has the internet.
Oh, there probably is now that I think about it. We'll put that on the Tumblr if there is.
So that was that reign kind of falls to me that he wouldn't actually know how to play Dabo. You know, I'm sure he knows. I'm sure he would know the rules.
Right.
Also, I find it like, are we supposed to believe that Quart's bar is just a part of his sort of financial income? More like a money laundering scheme, like, you know, like the Bada Bing was in The Sopranos, where he's got money coming in from other off-book sources that just sort of, he's using that, it's laundering that for him, which is what I always thought, is that he was in all kinds of crap. And so 3 days of no business doesn't look that bad to him.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's a great point.
I think the writers don't know what he's supposed to be. Because as it goes on, and there's other episodes later on in the series where he's got some scheme, but I feel like they don't know what the hell's going on with Quark's bar. Like, does he pay rent to the Federation or the Bajorans, I guess?
Yeah, I just assumed that he was like a gangster, you know, who was, if you needed drugs or you needed prostitutes or, you know, you need any of he was running the black market. And the shop was just sort of his friendly face to, like, keep that afloat.
Right.
If he really is just, like, a booze and craps table guy, I mean, why is he the biggest threat on the ship to Odo? Like...
Right.
I think that's just the writers, like, they wanted him to be that, and then after, like, oh... Wait, we have to make him likable. We can't make him that bad a guy.
Oh, I guess this is before the age of difficult men on television,
exactly.
Where we can love murderers and shit. So, like, they are like, we can't make him a gangster.
Right.
Yeah, I just...
Wait a minute. You're saying that Quark would have benefited a lot from like Tony Soprano. If the Tony Soprano came before Star Trek Deep Space Nine,
Yes.
Quark would have been a completely different character.
He would have essentially been the little Stevie Van Zandt character.
I'll admit my previous statement that this is the greatest television show ever. We'll say this is the greatest.
Pre-Soprano, yeah. No, I think that works. Pre-Sopranos.
Well, it's still a little hyperbolic, maybe.
This is the greatest Star Trek series. This is the show we're most interested in talking about on this podcast.
Right.
Right. The greatest show that we wanted to have a podcast about.
Exactly. I don't know. I want Quark to be this more interesting character, especially if they built him on like the saloon keeper from a western town. But to me now, that's Al Swearingen from Deadwood, and Quark is quite a bit like the Disney version of that.
Right.
And no, I mean, isn't he running schemes to like smuggle shit into other quadrants? And don't they even entice him at a point where we just opened the wormhole and there's a lot of business to happen in the wormhole through people smuggling people through the wormhole? Like, I just assumed that Quark was like the good face of a pretty ugly empire, but I don't know. These kind of shows, it bothers me, and especially that I know that they do go there eventually. But you have to sit through these like episodes early on where they're just scraping at the surface with like a fingernail.
Right.
Like go a little deeper into this.
Another place it could have gone deeper is Kira actually wrestling with the fact that this virus that's going to kill everybody on the station was built by her people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like it wasn't even like there was no. She didn't wrestle with that at all. I guess maybe it's because she grew up in a world where she was a freedom fighter and she saw her people get their hands dirty no matter the cost. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they should have dealt with that somehow. I felt like that was a missed opportunity too.
Yeah, like she wouldn't care if it killed Cardassians, but she's still got to have some like recognition of the fact that
the whole plot, it seems like a plot in like it's a boring plot and there was way too much of it. So like everybody's running around shouting their lines at each other and people are getting taken out of the script at like each act where you lose Bashir, you lose everybody. So at the end of it, it's just Odo talking to the Ferengi and Quark and
Quark because he's got a strong constitution.
Right.
Yeah, the Ferengi immunities.
Right, because Cisco passes out like a little girl immediately after he gets sick.
Oh, yeah.
You notice?
Yeah.
He finally comes down with it and then he immediately passes out.
Right.
Whereas everybody else powers through and talks gibberish for a while. He's like,
Even Jake was.
It's so funny how the virus affects people depending on how much the show's creators like them. So, like, O'Brien goes first, then Dax,
yes.
And then, down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the show's creators likes Odo and Quark the most.
Yeah.
And that's why they're the last one standing. But, no, I feel like this was a missed opportunity on a bunch of different fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to deal with the Cardassian and Bajoran conflict is just one of them.
Yeah.
And here we are again. We're right in front of the wormhole that's holding space gods. And for like the third episode in a row, they don't come into play at all.
Yeah,
or even mentioned.
No talk about space gods.
Yeah. The scientists that they get to solve it, he's like, oh, you're on that space station that the Cardassians used to have.
That old mining station.
Yeah. The one next to the wormhole that's like saving your planet from economic, failure.
Exactly. Yes.
that scientist doesn't get the papers. It's like hasn't been reading the news.
Well, he's right at his desk to take phone calls because she calls and he's like immediately, "What do you need?" And he's right in front of the desk and right like that's a very TV thing.
Right. They even had a perfect opportunity to bring that up as like, oh, he didn't even mention the wormhole. He went straight to the Cardassians. He must know something. That would have been a way to do it.
Just little things could have worked this episode.
Actually, James, if you think about it, I'm at my desk like right now, and in 2015, if you called me up on Skype, I'd be right here to like It makes much more sense in 2015 than it does in 1993.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
It does.
To answer calls at your desk.
And one more thing that was on my mind that I was thinking of how does, and maybe you guys know this because you guys just know Star Trek better than me, how does the universal translator system work?
Yeah.
Is it like, how?
Magic.
What?
No, I thought it was like a nanotechnology, like where it's actually implanted into your like brain somehow.
I don't think so.
So why couldn't it translate the aphasia?
Because it had to do with perception?
Right. Yeah. No, they explain that when they explain the aphasia. They're like, well, it's your brain changing this thing. It's the brain being aphasic, not the translator. Right. So it makes sense.
I mean, I understand because aphasia is like a real thing, and like I've had family members have issues with that. It happens with strokes and stuff like that. But like, if it's, I assume that the nanobot translators are working with intent, right? This alien is trying to say this, and I can.
Right. Well, they don't. They're not telepathic. They just know every language so well that they can translate it.
So it has to be languages.
No,
it has to be formal languages. It's not just looking at.
But it has to. But if it fits into the language structure that it can identify.
Yeah, okay.
There's a Next Generation episode where the translators don't work because they have something that's not a regular language or any identifiable way that language is created, so that it can't do it.
That's right.
I forget exactly, but there's precedent.
Yeah, this episode was pretty much awful and doesn't give us a whole lot to work with. One of the bright spots for me was the relationship between Jake and his dad. I thought that was, there isn't a whole lot of examples on TV where you see like a dad being tender towards his son,
touching him
as much as Cisco is to Jake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like touching him. Yeah. Hugging him and I liked it. It was a good moment. It's yet again, Avery Brooks is making decisions to work with things that
that's true.
Because he's like rubbing his ears and stuff. And that's like something I would do with my son if I was talking. I come from a family of touchers, so I assume the Ciscos are that too. And so I like that moment a lot. It was.
Yeah, I did too. It felt very real.
Yeah, see, I come from a family of not touchers. And so it makes me real uncomfortable.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom, okay. But like my father, no, we do not express emotion to each other. That's gross.
This is going to be totally weird. When my dad leaves or we kiss each other on the lips. I still kiss my son on the lip.
Yeah, see, I don't kiss my mom on the cheek. We hug. I'll hug the shit out of my family, but kissing them, no, feels weird to me. But, that's probably my own issues.
Yeah, so James basically would be really comfortable in the Cisco home.
I would be, man. It would be it would be lots of jambalaya, because the grandfather is...
Yeah, the food we can do, but...
No, that would be great. I would love Cisco.
But I don't ever actually remember... I can't recall in 2015 a show on the air that shows genuine affection between a man and his teenage son.
That's true.
Yeah.
Let alone, people of color.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Can you guys?
I don't know.
It's kind of revolutionary in that way. You've got an African-American man and like raising a son and being able to show that much outward affection. I don't feel like I see that very much. Like, I'm like, that's really nice.
No, I've probably like a hand on the shoulder on the Cosby Show or something. That's about as much as you get, right?
Yeah. And usually on like sitcoms and stuff, the kids are played for laughs. So they're like I'm thinking of, because you said an African-American family. So I'm thinking of like the 3 episodes of Blackish I've seen.
Yeah.
And the kids are just all used as comic relief. But I don't know, like, what about the guy from the Walmart commercials and Lawrence Fishburne? Do they like, I don't know. There may be some scenes where they like touch, but I don't think it's like face-to-face intimate touching like you see on this episode.
I don't think
it seems very organic and very real.
Yeah.
So I think it's a unique aspect of the show. I don't know.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a good, that's a good thing on the show. Like, I wish, and I think that, in my story of Avery Brooks is bored, like that, because I know that he did go on record as saying that he chose to do that, the touching, and the affection, and he even goes so far. This was on a Memory Alpha where he goes, He's like, no, my parents were my parents were hugged in physical contact, and when I still see, well, what's his name, the actor, when I still see him, I still
Sirach.
when I still see Sirach, I hug him and touch him. It's what he said. So like, I'm like, oh, okay, so he takes it a little further, but like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was his. I mean, like I think that I'm getting through a lot of these like things that I'm reading on Memory Alpha that Avery Brooks has a strong familial attachment to Sirach still. So
Yeah, I think that all comes through.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah. A couple other things. There were 2 references to Ren and Stimpy in this episode.
What?
Wow.
Because there are a reference to 2 episodes of Ren and Stimpy because the writers' room were so contentious with each other through the first few episodes that they would take breaks as like team building and watch episodes of Ren and Stimpy.
Wow.
Okay. Could you explain the references? Because I am curious.
The professor that Kira Stoll's name was give me a second here, Sumak Ren. So Ren.
Okay.
And then the Cardassian that's mentioned
Please tell me his name's Stimpy.
is Gul Stimpy. No, Gul Sumpko,
Oh, Spunko.
which I guess is a Spunko. Gul Spunko.
Yeah, that's John Crick-Falusi's company.
Yes, so
Spumco is still pretty bad.
yeah, Gul Spunko. And in the Q episode we'll be coming to in the next few weeks, there is reference to a planet Hoek.
Oh, Ren's last name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ren Hoek. So that's as interesting as it gets, buddies. I was saving that one.
Yeah, clearly. Well, yeah.
Man, that was.
So yeah, I don't. This episode.
Yeah.
What a dog this episode was, wasn't it?
I hate this fucking episode, man. This is so bad. Like, it was so boring to me, and it was
This
also
one's so bad. It makes you think maybe you don't like Star Trek after you started a podcast about Star Trek.
well. In the middle, my wife was watching because she watches the first time I watch it. She watches it with me.
Oh, that's nice.
Or she has been the last few weeks. It's halfway through this. At some point, I was like, I just said to her, "I'm so bored with this episode." She's like, "Why are you doing Deep Space Nine for a podcast?"
Right.
And it was the wrong time to ask me that. I was like, "I don't know, honey."
Yeah.
I'm locked in.
I didn't yet. So she got me at a weak point there.
Yeah.
No, God, this episode is so absolutely boring and absolutely uninspired but like if you remember, it seems like every season of Star Trek has these kind of like the whole creative process was, damn it, we have to write 22 of these things,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
and at best we got 13 good ideas.
Right.
And that's the best you can hope for any show is 13 good ideas.
Right.
So they're like, you know, pick one off the C pile of ideas and you got to write it.
All right. What would you do to fix this episode? Let's put on your writer's hat for a second. Say,
I can't change the plot. I can't change the overall plot. I got to.
no, they get the aphasia virus. What do you do to make it more interesting? Wade, anything? You got anything?
I would talk about how it's going to affect trade with the wormhole, and but a lot of my things that I have to do with the arc of the season, but they're still stuck in like that anthology episodic, each episode by itself.
Yeah.
At this time in television, that it's hard for them to do that, I guess, because they have to have it self-contained. I would have brought the wormhole into it or something. I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think the wormhole.
More interesting.
I think that's a good point. Like if you're a writer on this show and you've got a big dog like this, throwing the wormhole at it is like the wormhole could be your lifeline no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think, James? What would you have done?
Well, the biggest flaw I think in it is that there's no. Typically, the best of the shitty episodes at least gives you a character to focus on. Like, how many shitty Next Generation episodes are there about Data?
Yeah.
But you get through them because it's Data. But this whatever they chose to write a different character per act, it seems.
Right.
Like, it's O'Brien, and then it's Bashir, and then it's Cisco, and then it's Kira, and then it's Odo and Quark are sort of the main characters. So at each point you spend the first 10 minutes almost exclusively with O'Brien, and then you never see him again. He's in a coma. And I think that was sort of what they were wanting, is getting shuttling the cast members out of commission. But you lose the thread there, there's
Right.
you can't even walk away from it saying, I think I got some really good characterization, and I know O'Brien better as a character, or I know Kira better as a character. There's none of that. So you're just left with, I don't know, everybody had some scenes, and the plot was like a relay race where each person took the baton, but it's a crappy baton, And so it made it to where the episode can only be about the plot line. And that's totally uninteresting. So there was no question. I mean, the drama is, let's not die, or the weirdo who's going to blow up the ship because he can't get his thing out of the docking ring. That's the drama. And you don't even know why he's acting so irrationally. So it's just things are happening and everyone's having to deal with it. But there's no, so what I would have done was I would scrap that whole idea. This is an O'Brien episode, or a Bashir, whoever you want to focus on.
That's actually a really good idea.
That you just stay with it, and you can make it like where O'Brien in the whole fifth act has to solve everything while speaking in his Cockney brogue, like where nothing's making sense. And he has to, or they have to learn how to communicate. It's like with charades or something, where they have to
Yeah, because once they get the virus, they don't contribute anything else. Yeah, if they had to somehow learn how to solve it without communicating verbally or something, that would have been the way to go.
You can imagine at the end of it, by the fifth act, O'Brien's got to solve everything and get the guy. He's got to get information to Kira, and he's having to charade and pantomime everything, and he's dying from this flu, and he looks all sweaty and black-eyed, he looks awful. At the end, you see him, and then that cuts to whatever, Stardate, we fixed the problem, and you see him recovered. There's you felt like you went on a journey with O'Brien.
Yeah, that's how to make this episode better.
Yeah, that would be the one thing I'd say, but you are given nothing in this show.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think we pretty well covered it. This piece of shit episode as best we could, don't you think?
Yes, we did. I think we've talked about this episode more than anybody ever has ever.
Do you think? Well, better days are ahead of us.
Yeah. The next episode is the episode where the hunter and the prey come through the wormhole. I love that episode. It's called Captive Pursuit. I believe that's the next one.
Awesome.
Oh, they're back to the wormhole, see?
Yeah, and the first people, you meet the first aliens from the Delta Quadrant.
Awesome. So that gives us something to look forward to next week, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes, and then we have a Q episode coming up, which I don't know how do you guys feel about Q?
I don't know.
Oh, we'll unpack that in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll have to unpack Q as he comes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. What do you think? Should we wrap it up?
All right.
Yes, we polished this turd.
I think so. Yeah. Turd is as shiny as it's going to get, and it's all over my hands. Oh. Shit.
All right.
All right, the end. Thanks for listening.
Yes.
Please follow us on Twitter at AcquisitionPod and on Tumblr at the Rules of Acquisition Podcast.tumblr.com. Send us an email at rulesofacquisitionpodcast@gmail.com. You can turn this off now. It's pretty pathetic that you are still listening. Do you not have friends, or a hobby that is not Star Trek podcast related? That is possibly why people are fearful for the future of our society. We believe in you. We know you are better than this.